Mic'd Up Podcast, hosted by Dr. Mike Miller and Kobe Duran of Central Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Texas, is a series of conversations about issues that matter. For people who have real questions and doubts, it covers topics of faith, theology, and philosophy in ways that are easy to understand. Ultimately, Mic'd Up is a podcast with a couple of guys having conversations about conversations you are having. Mic'd Up is produced by Al Lambert Jr. at Mic'd Up Studios in Jacksonville, Texas.
Have you been using your pit boss lately?
Yeah, in fact, the last thing I'd done was a few weeks ago, I'd smoked a brisket.
Yeah.
And if you ever, you got to clean it out pretty good every now and then, especially
Yeah.
because it gets all the grease in there and
Yeah.
everything. And I didn't clean it out after the brisket, and so I just threw some boudin on there.
Ooh.
And I put the temperature on 350, and I go out there like 3 minutes later, and it was at 475, and I had a big flare up from all the grease. And man, I had 3 things of boudin, and one of them just turned black. I mean, it was just open, and so I ate it anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it was great.
Dude, I don't do burnt food. I reject it. If I was starving,
Burnt food?
burnt food, I don't do it.
Oh, burnt food.
Burnt food, yeah.
Oh, like I like my toast dark.
No!
Yeah. Cookies are best if they're burned on the bottom.
That is ridiculous, and that is, I now understand what's wrong with you. I've been trying to put my mind around that one for a while. Mike, our listeners, they don't know this because they're listening. I got glasses this week.
Yeah, you're not wearing them. What's the deal?
Well, I only need them for like far away.
Oh, okay.
I can see you fine.
Can you?
I think I can. I did notice that, like, you look crisp. You look crisp.
I'm very crisp. What can I say? Crisp is a word often used to describe me. People, hey, have you met Mike Miller? Oh, that dude's crisp.
I don't even know if that's a compliment.
I have no idea.
Crisp?
I don't ask questions. I just say thank you and move on.
Look, if you're talking about a tortilla chip and you're saying, hey, that's crisp,
It's got to be crisp.
it's good. If you're talking about
a crunchy taco.
If you're talking about strawberry, though, I don't know if you want
Strawberry?
to. That's just where my mind went. Okay, shake it off, big
Imagine
guy.
a crisp strawberry.
Today is December the 10th.
It is.
I've got a hot topic for us. I don't even know if it's a hot topic. I've just got a hot take.
Hot topic.
Thank you. I like that. We need to just cut that, record that, and every time we say something, just boom, that comes in. But before we get into it,
Yeah.
welcome to the Mic'd Up Podcast, where we have the conversations
About the conversations you are having.
And here we are,
Right here.
right on the cusp of Christmas. It's a crisp cusp of Christmas.
Say that 3 times fast.
Man, I'm surprised I got through it one
I'm
time.
kind of surprised you
I don't
did,
even
too.
have a good mastery of the English language. You know this.
Yes.
So we're coming along the Christmas holidays, and I've got an argument for you, and I want to hear your response to it. Now, I've got a feeling that this is. I might even be getting pharisaical with this. I think there's a chance, but I'm going to argue it anyways. So, are you ready for my argument?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know how, like Paul definitely in the New Testament will teach on the nature of spiritual warfare, probably more crisply, more clearly than any other New Testament author. We're going with it now.
On Mike, crisp guys.
Crisp guys, it's a bunch of crisp guys. Like Paul, you have him talking about the principalities and the authorities. And when he talks about that, I know that there's some difference in how that can be interpreted. But, one of the ways is that, there are demonic forces, powers, influences that are trying to work in major ways while at the same time going undetected.
Yeah.
So I have a take on Christmas that I want to.
Oh man.
I want to throw.
Is it? Hal,
You stop this. You stop this and you listen, dadgummit. I got a hot take.
I'm listening crisply. Crunch.
Christmas is a religious holiday.
Yeah.
We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Do you think that it is celebrated religiously for the most part.
I don't even know what you're asking.
In our culture today, do you think that there is a strong, I'm not even talking about in the church, I'm not even talking about with Christians, I'm just talking about in our culture. Do you think that the essence of Christmas, when people talk about what do they always say in the movies? You talked about it on Sunday.
The real meaning
the meaning of Christmas. Yeah. Do you think that our culture even comprehends the religious undertones of Christmas?
Absolutely not.
Okay. How do you think that the church does with that? Not Central Baptist, but just the church in general. I think I have a reason why.
Okay.
I think that our families hold us back from Christmas, celebrating it the way that it ought to be celebrated, maybe more so than any other cultural factor. Here's why. Like your family, take your family for example.
Yeah.
I wish I could see the look he's giving me right now. I love this so much.
It's a look of caution and skepticism.
There's nothing positive yet. There's not a positive look
Nothing
yet.
positive yet.
So there's one of two ways most people will celebrate Christmas this holiday season. You're going to celebrate it with your immediate family. For you, you're going to celebrate it with your kids and your grandkids.
And even some people I'm not related to.
And some people that you're not related to. You come from a family, though, or excuse me, not that you come from. Your family, all three of your kids, strong Christians. Mm-hmm. Two of them married to strong Christians. Mm-hmm. You just baptized your oldest. No, I'm sorry. Is he not your oldest grandson?
He's my only grandson.
He's your only grandson.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that you have baptized at least one granddaughter. No. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to say it bluntly, you have a deeply religious family when you start talking about your immediate family.
Yeah.
So people are going to.
And I'm going to push pause for just a second.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
For those that get heartburn about Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. Y'all, it's both.
Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous.
And I understand where they're coming from is they're trying to say, Christianity is not just about doing religious things, and it's not.
Yeah.
But the things that we do are religious things.
Yes.
Baptism is a religious rite. Yes. Lord's Supper is a religious rite. Going to church is something that's a religious activity.
Well, and even just like the doctrines that we believe in are religious doctrines, right?
So it's not only a religion, so it's more than religion, but it's not less than a religion.
Right. I'm glad that you brought that clarity to that.
So carry on.
Carry on.
Yes.
So people are going to spend their holiday season, for the most part, in one of two scenarios, either with their immediate family, or they're going to branch out from their immediate family and bring in the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, the distant family and stuff like that. Now, here's the deal that, just statistically speaking, this is a fact. It doesn't mean that it applies to every single family in America. But statistically speaking, there's a strong likelihood that you're in the minority with your immediate family being a Christian family.
Yeah.
But then if you were to branch out and go aunts, uncles, cousins, and things like that, it is almost guaranteed that families who can celebrate the Christmas holiday with cousins, aunts, uncles, the extended family, if you are doing that and your family is a Christian family, like the majority of the people are Christians, you're I don't even know what percentage, but I mean you're in a very, very small percent of people.
Yes.
And so my point is this: I think that there's so much emphasis, and it's starting to become odd how much, for me it is. It's starting to become odd to me how much emphasis is put on, hey, you got to get with your family at Christmas time. You got to get with your family at Christmas time. And the reality of it is this right here: if you do that, if you submit to the cultural norms for Christmas, there's a strong likelihood that you will not be able to practice Christmas as a religious holiday for the simple virtue that your family just, they're not there. They when they view Christmas and the real meaning of Christmas, they're going back to the Hallmark movie.
So why do you think I'm going to disagree with you on that?
I don't know. I
agree completely.
You agree completely?
Yeah.
So this might be where the disagreement comes in. So my hot take is this: I think it's time to push back against the cultural norms that Christmas ought to be spent with family, and instead we ought to consider, hey, who is my Christian community?
Okay, I am going to push back a little on that.
Okay, come on. What do you got?
Here's what I would say is spend it with your Christian and non-Christian family, but do not shrink back from celebrating it the way it ought to be.
So,
And let me take another tack. So, here's something that, and I'm not going to argue with people about this because these are my what I'm about to talk about is a personal conviction of mine. And when I've said it before, I felt like people thought I was pushing back on them, and that's not my intention. But we have a lot of people stay in our house.
Yeah.
And we have a rule. If you're a guest from out of town, you're staying in our house, and you're staying over on Saturday night, unless you're leaving town early Sunday morning, you're going to church with us. You sleep in our house, you go to church with us.
Is that something that is spoken and clarified to
Absolutely.
the guests?
We're going to church. Well, we don't want to go to church. No. That's one of the things you're going to do is you're going to go to church.
Have you got any pushback from anybody from ever?
We've had, I would say at least one family member who just says, well, we'll just leave. Okay. Because if you're here, it's an expectation you're going to do that.
Did that bring any tension to that relationship?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. But my thing is, Sunday is our day of worship.
Yeah.
And we set aside Sunday. I mean, it's kind of even though we do mundane things, it's set aside as a special day for us. So we're not going to do just we're not going to water that down just because it makes our guests uncomfortable. So what I would say is, when it comes to Christmas, hey y'all, this is how we celebrate Christmas. We would love for you to join us. And if they say, well, we don't believe in Jesus or whatever, we're just celebrating as a family holiday, say, we appreciate that. You can come and take part in our religious festivities, or you can choose not to come.
I think that is an excellent strategy. I want to be clear on this. I just know on both a personal level and anecdotal in hearing from other people that there is so, why is there just this insane... Okay, so I'm going to even get probably more controversial at this point in time. If I have any cousins that are listening to this, they're going to kick me out of the family. I love my cousins. The only reason I talk to my cousins is because they're my cousins. I've got some all over the state. The only reason that we share virtually anything in common is our biology. If I did not share that with them, there's plenty of them that I love. I legitimately love. I'm not trying to hedge on this. I legitimately love them, but I'm yeah, me and you would never hang out.
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
Me and you have very little in common. We don't even talk much as it is. We only see each other once, maybe twice a year. Mm-hmm. I just find it odd that our culture is just so adamant. Hey, at Christmas, at one of the most, I think that there's two holidays in the American tradition, and I would even say in the global tradition, that are important to the Christians: Easter and Christmas.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there's just this overwhelming influence. Hey, it is Christmas time. You got to go spend it with those people that you never see.
Yeah.
That you never talk to.
And here's what I would say, and I was trying to get to this Sunday is, this is your opportunity to share with people the real meaning. This is your opportunity to share the gospel when people are thinking about Christmas.
And I agree with that.
Now I'm gonna add. So I'm going to push back on myself there a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You come to my house, we're talking Jesus on Christmas. You're at my house Christmas Eve, we're pausing everything and going to Christmas Eve candlelight service.
Which, by the way, we have a stinking good
it
Christmas
is good,
Eve. I love
it's of Christmas things, it's my favorite thing.
Really, I agree.
But here's the rub. What if I've got non-Christian family members who say, no, we want you to come spend the holiday at our house?
Now you're getting into another layer here.
So here's the way I would handle that is I would say, well, we're going to come to your house, but we're going to find a candlelight Christmas Eve service to go to. We're not going to let that crowd the things out that are important to us. Now, I'm a pastor, so in fact, can I just tell you a funny story real quick? Yeah. Early in my ministry, I was still pretty young in ministry, and I was at a church, just a sweet church, great church, and my mom had died that year, and I told them, I said, guys, I'm gonna, I don't always use all my vacation, but I'm gonna use my vacation time to go spend time with my dad, and they're like, you go spend time with your dad this year, and we're not gonna charge it as vacation time.
Oh man,
you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, conversation came up. I was in a deacon's meeting, and conversation came up, you going to go see your dad for Christmas? I said, well, I can't. I've got to be here for Christmas Eve. And like one of the deacons said, Mike, if we can't handle a Christmas Eve service, we're not worthy of being deacons. You need to go be with your dad. You need to let us handle that, and we will. And I didn't have an associate pastor at that time or anything, and I'm like, wow, okay. And so I left for Christmas Eve, and I came back, and I'm like, so how'd it go? And they're like, yeah, you can't be gone Christmas Eve anymore. and honestly, there's something about the pastor needs to, that's one of the things the pastor needs to be present for.
I agree with that.
But I would say for people who aren't a pastor, and if this were me, if I weren't serving as a pastor, and I had unbelieving family members that said, hey, you want to come be at Christmas? I'd say, well, there are some things our family needs to do at Christmas, and how do you feel about us bringing that to your home? Or, yeah, we'll come Christmas Eve, but you need to know we're going to find a church and we're going to go worship with them on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Or if Christmas falls on a Sunday, we will be in church on the morning. Well, we're going to be opening gifts. Well, we're not going to be there for a couple of hours. And this is important to us. And I would use that opportunity to explain to them why it's important to us. So, but I do know if you're going into somebody else's home, that adds another tension. The truth is, if you're going to visit, let's say you got family members that have become Muslim, if you're going to go on some Muslim holiday to their home,
they're going to honor that Muslim
They're going to
holiday.
honor that, so you got to evaluate, well, am I willing to be there or not?
Yeah.
And so I just say, don't ask me to set my convictions aside.
So here's where, I guess the only pushback to that I would say is, so I do think that our Christmas Eve service is outstanding.
Yeah.
I think that if I was a guest in Jacksonville looking for a Christmas Eve service to go to, and I went to ours, I'd be like, oh, this was good.
Yeah, I'm going to travel here next year.
Yeah. One of the things, though, and I would say for me, so again, this is a personal conviction. For me, the thing that makes the Christmas Eve service so special is I'm like, these are the people, the people I'm sitting next to right here, these are the people that I do my Christian life with.
These are my people. Yeah. And what's really cool is this year, which doesn't happen every year, this year I'm going to have all my children and grandchildren at our Christmas Eve service.
That's pretty cool.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really special.
Well, and I think to my mom and dad, obviously I do a lot of life with my mom and dad, but most of it's over the phone because we live, close to 3 hours away. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to come to our Christmas Eve service because they have a great church that does a Christmas Eve service. And I want them to stay there because it's I don't know, I just have this, I feel like there's this sense that hey, if I'm not traveling and going the extra mile on Christmas to spend time with family who may or may not hold my convictions, then I'm not doing right. I feel like that's kind of what the culture tries. And my deal is hey, look, if your family is your closest Christian community, then praise God.
Yeah,
you have a real gift. But if they're not, it's okay to go to a I'm thinking about just some of the people in our Sunday school class. I'm thinking about some of the people in our home. Let's just stick with my home group. I think it's okay to go to our home group and be like, hey, guys, can we spend Christmas morning together? Now, I'm sure not everybody in our home group would say yes. Yeah. But there might be some of them that do. Mm-hmm. And I would say that would be a Christmas well spent. And the other pushback that I would have, because everything you just said, I agree with.
But here's a question I have too.
Yeah.
What does it mean to celebrate Christmas as a Christian? I mean, what specifically makes it different?
Now, I think that is a question that I'm, as a dad of a 9, 7, and 5-year-old, I'm trying to work through myself.
Well, and I'll tell you, if you just look at it like a casual observer would look at it, it's not going to look a lot different. The big thing for us is the Christmas Eve thing. Because Christmas morning can be a little chaotic. It
was for us.
Yeah, but what we're going to do is when we sit down to eat, there is going to be some conversation that is distinctively Christian conversation.
So that might be one of the things that me as an individual that I have to work through because so we did the Christmas Eve thing and we kept it, I think, very spiritual. Uh-huh. We woke up Christmas morning and started off very spiritual. But man, the second that we said, okay, girls, we've got a few presents, not many, but a few. Because like our conviction is, and again, this is one of those things like you were just saying, I don't expect people to share this conviction. Our conviction is like, hey, on Jesus' birthday, let's keep the focus on Jesus. On your birthday, you're going to get a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna go all out. Right. But I think that we gave him like one gift apiece or something like that last Christmas. Man, I'm telling you, we were going on like almost 24 hours where I was like, this is going to be magical. Christmas is going to be. The second we opened those gifts for our family, the magic was done.
Yeah.
And it became very consumeristic, very worldly. And I don't,
and some of the stuff we've done to try to slow that down too.
I would love some, yeah.
And I mean, this does tie into the sort of the consumer, but just to give us a slower pace on Christmas so we fill stockings. And our thing is at our house, if you spend Christmas Eve night at our house, we'll stuff your stocking.
Oh, yeah.
If not, that's up to you,
I'll be
So
there.
what we do is each person, one person at a time, goes through their stocking so that everyone else is watching. And then one gift at a time gets opened. It's like...
when you say
for
that it
this
slows
child,
it down, what do you mean? Like it just
so we're not just passing out gifts and everybody just opening gifts and everybody looking in their stockings and tearing into that stuff. We're focused on one person at a time. And so it's like, okay, everybody, it's time for Riley to open a gift.
Yeah.
So Riley gets to open a gift and we get to celebrate with Riley.
Yeah.
Okay, whose turn is next? Well, it's Embry's turn next, or it's Liam's turn next. And here is a gift, and it's one at a time. And so what we're doing is trying to get the kids to slow down, going, wow, all right, it's all about me. No, it's about our we're enjoying each other here. And then Terry's really good about when we sit down to eat, stopping everybody and going, hey, let's talk about a favorite Christmas memory or something that's really special to you. And there's always some Jesus talk there.
Yeah.
But, if Christmas does fall on a Sunday, that is, we do nothing different on a Sunday morning. We get up and we get ready and we go to church. Then we'll go home and we'll do our Christmas festival.
But, just a few years ago, we had Christmas fall on a Sunday, and
it was great. And we had a really strong crowd.
It was one of the best Christmas
It's my favorite
days.
Christmas, man. It really is.
It was
when it's
so
on
good.
Sunday.
And there was churches. I don't remember if there was any local churches, but I know that there was churches in the media that were closing. I was just like,
oh yeah, there were a bunch. And so I don't want to give this message that since we're Christian, everything we do on Christmas Day is very holy and sacred and religious,
Yeah.
No, we open gifts. We go outside and play with the new toys, and we do fun stuff. But there's something different about it.
For the kids, have you at any point in time felt like that was a distraction?
Yeah.
But do you feel like it's an acceptable distraction? I guess
Yeah, we try to manage it. And we do try to, we'll say something. We try to say something on Christmas about, we're doing this because it's fun and because we love you and we want you to have these gifts. But this is the reason that this day is set aside and is special, And I know that. When I was growing up, and I've talked about this before, I had a really great childhood. But when I was growing up, man, it was just everybody's opening gifts, and there was no spiritual component to Christmas at all.
Yeah.
And so what we do now, we're still doing some of the same stuff. We're just trying to slow it down. We are trying to bring this component in that, and honestly, we've even tried okay, we're going to sit down and read the whole Christmas story. Man, I got to tell you, when there's presents sitting over there and stockings and everything, it's the most unproductive reading of Scripture I've ever had. And Terry just finally said, Mike, we've got Christmas Eve. And I think this was wise of her. She said, we've got Christmas Eve. We're focusing on the story then. We're making sure our kids do get the Christmas story. And, since it's unproductive, maybe that's just not a battle we need to fight.
Yeah. So, you give me some things to think about. And I'm going to think about these things.
And just because this is the way we do it, I would never tell people, well, this is what you need to do. Because we've changed it up and we've done different things, and we do try to get that right focus. And it's hard. And also, in the different stages of your kids' lives, it can change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, y'all are in a stage right now. I can't even comprehend it, right?
We're in a sweet time of life.
Yeah.
We're empty nesters who are close with our kids and grandkids, and it's just a fun time.
So this was one of the thoughts that I had coming in. And again, like, you give me some things to think about, and I will. I kind of go back to like the principalities, the authorities, and things.
I was wondering when you were going to circle back to that.
Okay, so Thanksgiving in America, like if you go back and look at the roots of Thanksgiving, it actually is a religious holiday.
Yeah.
It has been forever. It's strictly an American holiday,
It is.
And things like that. But look at like some of the media and the cultural norms around Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively, I would say that like the way that the culture says, hey, you should spend Thanksgiving doing this, I would say like, yeah, I pretty much agree.
Yeah. Stop and be grateful.
Here's
the interesting thing, though. I've never understood the gratitude of an atheist.
Oh, man.
Who are you thanking? Let us be thankful for our health. To whom?
To whom are we
Who's
thankful?
responsible for that?
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
Good job.
I
Good
worked
job.
out this year.
July 4th is a national holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that for the most part, our culture gets it right. Mm-hmm. And you start like going down the list here. Like you start looking at all the little holidays, Labor Day, MLK, all the things. Like I think that our culture, for the most part,
You focus on what the holiday's about.
You focus on what the holiday's about, but then you go to Christmas and Easter. And it's like this global, it's a global holiday that the church is supposed to unite around.
And if you're going to suggest that there are evil forces behind this great distraction, I would not disagree with you.
That's what I'm suggesting.
I mean, you read the screw tape letters.
Yeah.
Which is not Bible. But I mean, I do believe that if we can take the day when the church is at least supposed to celebrate, and can I just say here, that the incarnation, and by incarnation we mean God becoming man, God becoming human.
Come on.
It may be. I mean, the resurrection is pretty darn amazing, right?
It is.
But the incarnation is. Look, every Sunday I couldn't come up with the words. I'm in the pulpit preaching, and I stood there just staring at people, going, because how do you talk about the one who has existed for all eternity, the one who spoke all creation into existence, the one who the Bible tells us is responsible for sustaining in other words, if he stopped, everything would cease to exist. Like, it's not just everything would die. It wouldn't exist. There would be no matter. There would be nothing. The one who is on his throne currently being worshiped by myriads of heavenly beings, not just steps into his world, but becomes a part of his creation.
As the most humble.
He becomes a baby in the womb of a poor, insignificant nothing of a teenage girl.
It's like you can't even wrap your mind around.
Mind-boggling. And if the enemy can say, "Let's get you in debt," to the point that when your credit card bills come in January, you're going to be sick at your stomach because of how much you overspent. If we can get you thinking about everything but the greatest miracle ever.
Yep.
We have, and make you feel good because you celebrated Christmas. What a victory.
I feel like this is one of those areas, like I said, like those principalities, those forces, like they're trying to go unnoticed as best as they can.
Yeah.
I think they slipped up here. They've gone so far into this thing where it's like, hey, you didn't do it with July 4th. You didn't do it with Thanksgiving. You didn't do it with MLK. You didn't do it with Labor Day. All these other things. But here we have these two deeply religious holidays. And I love what you said. Because like I used to think that the resurrection was like the biggest deal. And which, by the way, huge deal.
Let's don't take anything away from
not
the
trying to take
resurrection.
anything. But like I guess some of the language that has like helped me try to process it is like, if Jesus was actually God, then the resurrection should be somewhat expected.
Well, and we even saw Jesus raise people from the dead.
Yeah, we
right?
saw it. Yeah.
But how does God become man without ceasing to become God?
This is the most unprecedented thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
And not just, he doesn't just become a king, he becomes an infant. First, he becomes an embryo.
With cows and pigs and stuff around. And here's, I read one article this week that was so good. Because it was talking about this lady who grew up in the city. She goes out to her husband's family's dairy farm. And she's like, everywhere I look, there's cow poop. Everywhere.
And it stinks. Farms don't smell good.
And she's like, finally, the thing that got me was like, I started thinking about Jesus. And every time I thought about Jesus, I thought of this beautiful little manger scene where there's this nice, sweet cow. Let's just, cows, they're loud. It's pooping everywhere. It's poop stinks, and the pigs and the like all these things in this little area that was made for an animal, but yet that's how God comes in. It's just such a big deal. And I think that the enemy has done so much to distract from it. And I will say, I think that you've given some really good application for like reversing some of these things. I think that the enemy has tried to use our own biological families to detract from Christmas and from the incarnation.
So you got family that aren't Christians. You don't want to make it uncomfortable for them.
Don't want to make it uncomfortable.
I do. I actually do.
Yep.
Christmas is uncomfortable, man. I mean, God came and he didn't come. I mean, they killed him, right?
Yeah.
They didn't kill him because he didn't make anybody uncomfortable.
Well, he made everybody uncomfortable.
He made everybody uncomfortable. I mean, even his disciples, they'd be like, we got it now. And he'd go, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah.
No, I'm on your side.
Oh, and Peter in that moment too, it's right after he gives the declaration, you are Peter, and I'm going to give you the keys of the kingdom type thing. And then all of a sudden he's like, get behind
me, Satan. You don't have anything of the kingdom in mind.
I just have a burden, and I don't know the best way to apply this out. But I guess one of the comments I wanted to make going into this podcast, and again, I would caution everybody to take this with a grain of salt because I do think that you give me some things to think about. But I don't think you should feel bad as a Christian if you get to the Christmas season and you think to yourself, hey, who is my Christian community? And if it is your family, praise God. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you should feel bad if you're like, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to, my emphasis is going to be spending this time with them. Mm-hmm. And maybe come July 4th, that's when I'm like reaching out to all the aunts, uncles, cousins, or I don't know, pick a holiday. Thanksgiving, I don't think that should be something that people even remotely feel bad or shameful or guilty because our culture is going to try to make you feel that way.
Unless you look at it and go, man, this is my greatest evangelistic opportunity with my family.
And I think that there's a lot to be said about that if you can make that work. I know that there's going to be some families that like trying to make that work would just cause greater division for the family.
It could, yeah. And this has nothing to do with that, but like my oldest son, for a while they said, look, y'all just need to understand, we're going to be at home alone on Christmas morning, us and our kids.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally, and we're like, hey, it's your family.
Yeah.
You do what's best for your family. We'll take any time with you that we can get, but you do what's best for your family.
Was that a hard pill for you to swallow? Were you like?
Nope. No, because so as empty nesters, the truth is, I've got one son who's not married, right? But the truth is, my two kids that are married, they have other families to think about.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I came from an awesome family, but I remember how stressful it was trying to please my parents and Terry's parents at Christmas.
It's super stressful.
It's super stressful. And we made a point to say to our kids, you don't have to please us. Now, we would like for you to go through some effort to try to see us.
Yeah.
We do think that, and they have. I mean, that's not been controversial at all. But you do what's best for your family. And like Brian just told us one year, he goes, what's best for our family is for us to get up. And we might even travel that afternoon, but we want to spend that day. And so, and I'm trying to, it's been a long time, but I think we actually made that decision too, that we were going to do Christmas morning before we with our family. Yeah. Before we traveled. I forget a lot of things.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But no, it wasn't stressful for us because we've said, if you're going to have stress around the holidays, we don't want it to come from us.
Yeah.
And my mom was awesome. My mom was all about family. But, my mom did not understand why we couldn't be at her house every Christmas morning.
Yeah. And there's
we're
something flattering about that, too.
There is, but I also grew up where, like, everybody, extended family and everybody came to my parents' house.
Yeah.
And so this was one of the most significant things for her. And I'm like, Terry also has parents and siblings, and it was just so stressful. And we've just said we're not going to cause that stress. That's why this year we're actually on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day having everybody. It's really unusual. We're just grateful.
Yeah.
Because we know it can't always happen like that.
Well, you talk about that. This is something that's very recent for Courtney and I. It took. We've been married 11 years. It was after year 7 that we were like, okay, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And it was actually, we had Rhonda and Steve Edwards over to the house one day, just to try to mediate a conversation. We weren't at each other's throats.
No, but help us figure this out.
We were just like, hey, help us figure this thing out. And that I remember that conversation with Rhonda and Steve as they were kind of weighing in on some of our patterns and habits for the holidays, because we were on two completely opposite sides of the spectrum. We didn't hate each other. We loved each other. Yeah. We weren't talking about divorce, but we were just like, these holidays, you're getting a lot of joy out of them. I'm not. We got to figure something out. Mm-hmm. And it took us about 7 years of that before we had that conversation and came to a place where okay, there's real health now, I think, to some of our habits. Mm-hmm. But I even still, again, I'm processing this on a podcast, so enjoy, listeners. This is like counseling sessions with Mike.
I'll send you my bill later.
Thank you. But now I think the next thing we're trying to process is, okay, what is our next step we can take to incorporate our home group, our Sunday school class? And it won't be everybody, obviously, but just like those people who we do the most life with.
Mm-hmm. And I have a really good friend who does not have family here who's coming to our house for Christmas.
Yeah.
And he is a believer. He's a member of the church, and we're really close. And he ate with us last Christmas. He ate with us last Thanksgiving. Yeah. We were out of town this Thanksgiving, but he's going to come and eat with us, and
praise God for that.
Yeah, that's really important to us. He is in our friend group, and the reality is, most of our friends are empty nesters, also. And so they're dealing with the same stuff we're dealing with, and so they got kids coming or they're going to be with kids. But like Thanksgiving, we weren't home for Thanksgiving. We went to be with our daughter, but the 4 days before Thanksgiving, our oldest son and his family came to us, and then our youngest actually had to work over the whole time, so we didn't even get to see him,
I got to see Brian and Claire they were at the Thanksgiving banquet that week.
Yeah, they were, that's right.
That's another just really fun thing that we do.
That's one of my favorite
Golly,
things.
I love it.
Yeah, our church does a really great Thanksgiving banquet, and the church provides the meat, and all the sides and desserts are potlucked. And man,
there's some good ones. we got some folks that know how to cook.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this has been a good conversation. You give me some things to think about. As always, I'm right.
Well, I haven't disagreed with you, so you probably are right.
What did you say on our other podcast the other day? I was wrong one time or something.
I was wrong once.
Yeah, you were wrong once. I'm still going to figure out what that was.
I'm not telling.
You didn't hire me, so that's not what it was.
No, I didn't hire you.
maybe keeping me. That's
All right, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this public in the spirit of Christmas.
Oh, snap.
I would love to take credit for hiring you.
Oh, man.
I would love to take credit for that.
That's a strong compliment.
You are... you're one of the finest people I've ever worked with. That's no doubt.
I appreciate that.
Normally, I wouldn't say that to your face, but it's Christmas.
Well, so. I appreciate that, and I love working with you.
Yeah.
Podcast has been fun.
Yeah.
All right, we're wrapping up 2024, but this is a new season, isn't it, Al?
Unless y'all want the next one to be a new season.
Maybe the next one will be a new season.
We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, we have some good listener feedback that we're going to start diving into when we get back.
By the way, somebody sent me a message the other day and said, hey, here's a couple of topics I'd love for you to cover. And he said, because these are conversations that my family has. And honestly, I looked at those two topics and I thought, okay, one of these is a conversation that people are probably having, and the other one, I literally don't know anyone who's having this conversation. Doesn't mean we won't talk about it, but we'd love to have your comments about some things you think we should talk about. and because we're all the time looking for good fodder.
That'll work. All right, folks. We'll see
Merry
you
Christmas.
later.
Bye.
Bye.